everybody. Yeah. So we are looking at the program that we have today, right? And following the program, I'm going to explain to you how the thing goes about each one of the module. And I will also be distributing out for you a short pre-test for all of you to do. Yeah, so I'll hand this out to all of you. Here you go. Now, for the pre-test, here you go. Okay, I would like you to use your phone just to scan on this, right? To answer the questions, whatever you have, and from there, just take your time, just answer the questions. The less that you know is fine for this program. Yeah, so as far as we're concerned, just make sure that we will be able to have all the things that we want to learn and experience through this program. So just answer the few questions that we have here. Alright, take your time. So the time now is 9 o'clock. Okay. Have you all managed to find or get the link? Yes, okay, just answer where you can. The reason why we want you to use a reference book is so that we can evaluate at the end of the program what you have learned, right? What skills you have obtained. Just try it out first and see. The question typically allows most people who are new to project management, right, to have an idea what is involved in project management. The students who have done some project management program in their universities would know most of these questions. We'll be able to answer most of this. Yeah. We've got another about 8 minutes more for you to do this. Even some project managers will find it that some of the questions asked they might not know because they have different type of project managements. Yeah. We've got a few more minutes left. Clock not moving. Let's see the clock. check your student clock. We've got another 4 more minutes before we move on to the next activity. Just finish up the last few questions. We were given 10 minutes for this session, so just take a few more minutes for the pre-test. You have only 2 minutes left before we move on to the next section of the program. So whatever last items that you have, just fill up, and I will have a look at your responses during the coffee break, and it will help you later on at the end of the program to see where are you, what are you achieving. Let me check the clock. Just the 1.5 minutes left. Don't worry, if you cannot answer, don't worry too much about it. Yeah? So we will be learning some of this, the answers to some of these items in short while throughout the duration of the program. Okay, so now just close off the last answer. Save and submit whenever you're ready. Yeah. So whatever who's done, just put up your hand, say you're done, and you can continue to the next part. Yeah. Okay. That's good. That's good. All right. Thank you. Right. So we go to the next portion here. The next portion here, what we're going to do here is a short activity. The short activity typically is for us to be able to get ready for the program. Yeah. So there is a activity here. All right. Just have a look at the page here itself, right? So it's a short activity just for you to just go through to see scenario of what is a this person called Jack and this person called Jill. Yeah, so they have typically been asked, right, by their parents to perform a series of tasks, right, and the task typically involves them retrieving a bucket full of water back home. And if you read through the rest of the information there, the problem here is that it's winter, right? And there's a creature at the front of the page of the place there, right? Typically, we would have done this in groups of 5 because it's us here, so we will all do it together. Yeah. So you have 10 minutes to perform or read through this instruction, just answer the questions there. So now the question here is the scenarios that just give you an overview. You can read the details in a short while. Yeah. They were given a particular task. Okay. The task is they have to go and retrieve a pail of water. They were given a certain amount of time to retrieve the pail of water, and the thing is, where they're going to retrieve the pail of water is at the top of a hill, and at the top of the hill there's a garden. So they were provided with all the necessary tools to go, the direction to go, right? And now the question here is, who collected the water, right? And how much of water did they bring back? Okay, so just read through the story there. Okay, and typically try to deduce from this information provided who returned first and how much of water did they get. Yeah, so you got about 10 minutes to do this exercise. It's a short exercise, yeah. See the timing. This is past 13. Let's remember the story here just involves the few characters that's mentioned or described inside the notes there, right? But the main character that is going to go and pick up the water and return back is Jack and Jill. The rest of the characters, they are not going to pick up anything. They will still remain in the house. Just need to know who returned first and how much of water did they bring back. Try to solve the mystery. If you need to, you may discuss with each other, it's okay. And try to form your answers in a short while. I would just like to know for your response. Who would be the one that returned first, and how much of water would they be when they return? All the other characters involved in the story, they will also contribute to some sense of this timeline. some of you may have seen this particular storyline and have actually gone through other programs. Most probably have gone through other programs because it's one of the popular way of one of the popular activities for us to be able to brainstorm and see who gets the answer. Take your time, take another about 5 minutes more to be able to try to find the solution. While thinking of this, just take note that they do mention that it is at the end of the year in the northern hemisphere. So what could also be the contributing factors if it's end of the year and they're in the northern hemisphere? Let's take another about 4 minutes more. Right, another 3 more minutes and we are done. Now, so I've given you the hint. It's end of the year and they're in the northern hemisphere, and based on the stories, you just have to try to understand and formulate ideas. How do you get that conclusion there? Very good, very good. That's good. Now, that's a good idea. That's a good approach to it. Yes. Now, so let's come to the solutions that you have actually gotten. How many of you say that Jill arrived first? How many of you say Jack arrived first? Okay, very well. So the thing here is this: how much water did they return back with? How many of you say they return with a whole bucket of water? How many of you say they return with half a bucket of water? And how many of you say that they return with no water? Very good. Okay, excellent. Now, like the story goes, right? If you see through later on, there will be a short description in the next page itself, right? In the northern hemisphere, at this end of the year, it is winter period, winter season. Yeah, so on the place that they were at, it was a bit slippery. So on their way down, right, it is very likely somebody will have fallen down and hurt themselves, and they will not be able to go back up to pick up the water again, one person. So definitely it was not full, and it was also not empty because they did bring back some water. Yeah, so that's good. That's a good job. That's how that we try to do this type of analysis skills that we have. Right. So now, thank you for running through a few exercises. Now, next thing is this: we have to establish some sort of groundwork on how we're going to approach this. Yeah? So the contract here is this: during the training, if you have phones, please make sure that you have it on silent mode. Yeah, where you can. Yes. If for any reason that you need to leave early, or to go out to the toilet and all that, just go. Let me know and you can go at it. Yeah, no problem. Apart from that, it's your responsibility to follow through with all the exercises that I provide. Yeah, so your participation helps you to learn better. Yeah, so those are just the basic contract and all that. So contract means that your agreement to be in class to study or to learn. Yes. Yeah, so now, next portion here is this. We are going to look back at the next set of slides. I provided you with a set of notes. Yeah. So the next page is the program that we have is known as project management and approach to successful project delivery. This program is typically aimed at people who are fresh graduates, those people who are new into the area of project management. Yes, to understand what is this project management about. And we will do a short introduction to the program. How is it like? So, in a nutshell, project management, we try to understand the basics of it first. Yeah, so like most programs that we have in office, in work, in the home, when we study, yeah, we have sometimes some activities that we have to carry out in the short term and end it. So what we have here is this very common term that we use: successful delivery of any project on time doesn't require genius. It means typically anybody can deliver a project. However, many projects risk failure due to the simplest of causes. So that means anybody, any Tom, Dick and Harry can do a project. Now the question here is, what's the project and how do we benefit from the project? That's the thing that we all always normally look at. Okay, so now among these items that we have here, if you can see the picture that we're depicting here is this. Okay, Jack and Jill scratching their head. Why? Because one small little project, but there's a possible risk of failure. Simple thing as getting or fetching water from the well. There are risks, and there's also a time frame when they have to get the water back before everything freezes over. Now, to cover this area here, we have the program objectives. Program objective, typically we are looking at project management. We have to define what is mean project management before we can even become a project manager. Then we have to look at its importance. How is it important to anyone, whether in the IT line, in the administration line, in schools and studies. We will look at different phases of project management life cycle. These are standard phases that we will normally see. And following that, understanding the role of the project manager. Okay. So this is the project manager area. Apart from that, there will also be 4 modules all in all. So this is project program objective. There are 4 modules for us to support this. Module 1. Module 1, overview of project management. We will have a general idea what's project management. Module 2, life cycle of common projects. Typically, for us to get an experience of understanding of projects. Then in Module 3, principles of a successful project, followed by Module 4, organizing through standards. We should be able to cover these two in the first half of the day. Then the last half of the day will be covering Module 3 and Module 4. Okay, so that's the area that we have. Now, if you see this portion here in a short while, we have many people who actually start going into the project management. Okay, some of them are just called as thrown into the fire. Okay, or we call it baptism of fire. In other words, no skills, no knowledge, no briefing, no explanation. They are suddenly appointed as a project manager. They don't even know that they are project manager. After somebody tells you in the organization chart, say, oh, this guy is the project manager. Okay, so that's one of the areas that we have. So, let's see the next area here that we have. Okay, life cycle of common projects. There are many life cycle programs, but we are looking at the standard and the traditional life cycle of projects. If you read articles, read books and all that, sometimes they say life cycle, there's 3 life cycles. Some of them are 4, some of them are 5, some 7, some 8, some 9. Yeah, so we will see the basic life cycle of common projects. So the 4 basic life cycles is the most common ones that we will see, right? That any program, any projects also will have. Principles of successful projects, then we see the principles, how does it tie out to all these things here? How does this life cycle benefit people? And the principles typically means that things that we must do or must perform, must prepare, must provide to have a successful project. And the last part is standards. How can we apply all these things? We have something called standards that everybody in the industry follows, so it's easier for us. Okay, now that's one area. Have a look at the program. Have a look at this 4 items first. Any questions? Let me know. We just check and see my timing. Now, let's go over to Module 1. Let's see what's Module 1 about. So this is Module 1. I'm just going to give you an overview of it. So, in Module 1, overview of project management, we will try to understand or rather look at characteristics of a project. What makes up a project? People say project, but what's a project? Then we will explain the term project and management. Okay, what's project and what's management? Then from there we have an idea how, or a better sense of what is it. This is especially useful for those people who suddenly were told that, hey, look, you've got to do this work, and then they realize that it is a project management. Then the third item here, we have planning through budget, quality and schedule. So when we do planning, we make use of budget, we make use of quality and schedule to determine the success of the project. These are the main things. And the last part of this module 1, we will see how to recognize a project manager. What makes a good project manager? Then you have to evaluate yourself, are you a good one or not, right? Or whether you are evaluating another person if he is a good project manager. That's the area in module 1 that we have. Okay. Now, do you have any questions for this part here? Okay, very good. Now, in our examples in a short while, we're going to see how a simple, we have seen an example in our icebreaker early on one, right? So we'll see another example. One fine day, we are given a task, right, to paint the room. Okay, so painting the room with a particular color, a particular shade, becomes a project when we have a plan that involves other people, that involves budgets, that involves quality and schedule. For example, we may need to determine a budget for it. In other words, how much is involved, how much of paint we need to buy, how much of other materials I have to buy, whether I have to pay somebody to move things out while I paint, whether I have to rent another place to put all the things out, whether I have to pay a painter to do the painting. Then we also see this simple situation where if we take the project of painting a room, how much of effort is going to be required, and in the end of the day, what type of quality are we looking at in the paint? Yeah, so that's the idea of it. So that becomes a project, and the best thing is we also decide on the schedule. For example, before the next Chinese New Year, we want to have the room ready. So that would be our schedule. So that makes it into by having these few things, it becomes a project. Okay, so we will see this portion here in detail in a short while. Okay, let me see my schedule. We are still very ahead of time. Okay, now, so in our example, as I mentioned just now, we're going to do the painting project for room. Later on, we see other projects, other examples. Okay, let's go to the next part then. So we are very fast on this one here. This is the next slide first. Describing characteristics of a project. Okay, everything that people mention as a project is not necessarily a project. Yeah, so sometimes we have to be able to decide whether an activity is a project or not. Yeah, so that means that it could be the opposite of a project. It's a day-to-day activity. For example, if your job as a bank teller, every day you're supposed to sit down in front of the customer and answer all of their questions, all of their applications. That does not make it into a project, because that is your day-to-day activity. So it's easy to differentiate that. A project is something where we have suddenly decided to have a specific purpose with a specific set of activities to complete. So if somebody tells you, oh, then the teller sitting at the front of the bank teller sitting at the front counter, he has a specific purpose to answer people's question, to also process people's applications, and they have a specific set of activities. Okay. Why do we say that's not a project? Let's see the next example. Here, it has something called measurable benefits and achievements. Again, the bank counter or bank teller who's sitting there doing his work, does he have a measurable benefit about what is he doing to the company? Yes, because he's actually processing the number of inquiries or number of applications. And if he managed to do all those things, it's also called achievements. I'm just giving a comparison with a normal daily task compared to a project. Now, another example here is this: an achievable outcome with a degree of risk. The bank teller sitting in front there, trying to process all these things, does he have an achievable outcome? Yes, but he does not have a degree of risk. Why? Because it's something that is repetitive. He's doing it on a day-to-day basis. It's normal. Okay? Relevant and within a time frame, time limit. So when somebody is saying that about the bank teller again, if he's doing his work, of course his work is doing day-to-day basis, but it is not to say that there is a relevance to it, right? Because that's his task. He's doing it day to day, and within a time limit. This time limit, of course, there will be a time limit for the day. He has to complete it within the day. Okay? So that's why a lot of people will suddenly say, "My job is a project." So it doesn't become a project because it does not have specific purpose plus measurable benefits. It's achievable and it's relevant. You must have all these four, then only we can consider it as a project. That is one of the things that determines a project. Yeah? That's why some people use the term SMART, which stands for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and within a time limit. It is a popular acronym to describe project. Very popular way of doing it. Yeah? Okay, let's get into this module 1. Now, let's go back to the case of our task that we were assigned to paint up the room. Now, if I'm doing the painting of the room, very simply put, I have to start thinking about, okay, I could do the way that most people do, is just buy it without thinking, come to the house, and then paint, see whatever I can paint, and I'm done, and I go off. That typically would not constitute as a project. Okay, that one is just an ad hoc activity. Okay, now when it comes to project, that means that we start thinking smart. Okay, I have a specific purpose and this distinct set of activities. I think, okay, I'm going to paint my room. I start thinking about what is it that I'm going to paint. Am I going to paint the ceiling, the walls, the floor? What am I going to paint? So I have to determine all these things. I have a specific purpose, and I determine my set of activities. So as a room getting painted, I start thinking, okay, I want to paint all these things. I might have to remove some things. I might have to cover up some places. For example, certain things I have to take them up so that it doesn't get painted. And do I want to paint the ceiling? Yeah, so those are the specific set of purpose. What are the purpose that I can think about? What are those activities I can think about? I may need to apply. Let's say I'm going to be carrying a lot of paint and all that. I'll be making a lot of noise, moving things here and all that. I may need to apply for a permit for my building, because the apartment sometimes you need to apply for a permit to say that, oh, I'm going to do this activity, so I have to apply. So those are determining the sets of activities. So I know a specific purpose, paint, and the paint I need to know. Am I going to have single color the whole round, or do I have intention to have multiple colors or specific design? Right? So I need to see what are the different areas. If I have suddenly a plan, what is it that I want to draw or I want to paint, then again that becomes a specific purpose. For example, I came across a new movie, right? The latest movie for Guardians of the Galaxy, since it just was released recently, right? Okay, on the TV screen. So I wanted to paint and put in some of my favorite character, the designs and all that over the wall. So it could constitute as a specific purpose also. Then the next part here is this. Based on that, I have to see, is there a measurable benefit and achievements? So that means that to be able to complete this, along the way, what's the benefit that I intend to have? One, I might want to have something which is painted to the color that I want, to the design that I want. Then second, let's say I want to paint everything gold. Okay, following the Guardian Galaxy's goldish set of colors. I may also have to look at what achievements I want to have. For example, I may want to be able to complete one wall today, because I know I cannot finish everything. So that's an example of the achievement. One wall must be completed today. Another achievement that I may want to have is from the activities to be able to move everything out from the room, so that I can actually clean up the place and start doing all the cleaning and doing the painting. Okay, then that becomes the benefits. I need to be able to measure the benefit of this whole project. So that means that when I finish this whole project, I must be able to tell myself, hey look, I have the thing painted like what I planned. That is the benefit. An achievable outcome with a degree of risk. Then we come to the situation where certain things that we do, for example, when we're doing painting, there might be spillage. I might have drops of paint dropping here. I may have a very, what you call it, my ornaments around the walls. I have to make sure that they are all not painted, and when I'm cleaning it up, I don't damage the wall. Yeah, I may want to move furnitures from one place to another place. So those are the degree of risk. So I need to be able to determine those things. So again, painting, relevant, and within a time limit. So we set the time limit. Whenever we set a time limit, we know that the project must complete before the next Chinese New Year. So we set that as a time limit. Relevant here typically means that the things we do is relevant to what we want. In other words, we say that we want to paint this room. Don't suddenly start painting outside of that wall also. Don't suddenly start repairing the holes in the walls and all that. Don't suddenly start fixing all the lightings and all that. Yeah, so project, we have to do things which are relevant within the project. Yeah, so that's one of the things that we have at this point of time. Okay, this is how we describe the project. Okay, now next slide that we have. Projects basically is addressing a specific need in an organization. So in other words, when you're working in a company, I was telling you about the bank teller. He's sitting in front there doing his job, accepting inquiries from customers, accepting applications from customers, right? So it's his job. But when there's a specific need in an organization, then we term it as a project. And each project, there will be a set of constraints. Constraint typically means that what are the limitations that we have to do those needs, to achieve those needs. Organizing activities throughout management. Okay, that means there's a whole set of activities. That is what we call management. Okay, again, later on we see back SMART. Right? So when we have all those activities mentioned, then that's part of the management. And the end, producing an end result. Again, these two here explains to us about management. Okay, now, in a company, for example, the bank teller, he's sitting there doing his work. He's not doing a project management. Okay, because he's doing a day-to-day task. But if, for example, he is given a special task, yeah, to actually go and in our example, to actually use a new system, that might be a project. Why? Because the company is saying, oh, we're going to launch a new system for everybody to use. So that when you do that, then the bank teller says, oh, okay, I'm in charge, I'm the head bank teller, and all the other bank tellers also need to apply the new program. So the company says we have a specific need, we want everybody to use the new program. So that becomes a project, and during that time, there's some constraints. That means that we have our work, we have the new system, we have to determine, say, oh, how are we going to start using the new system and all that. That will be part of the constraints. Organizing activities through management, then in that case, we have to manage the activities. For example, we have to plan to say, today, XYZ will be preparing these items, or we will be installing it, we will be having another set of activities of training. Then at the end of the day, everybody has to start using it. Right? So those are the activities that we have. So this is talking about having a new program being launched for the bank tellers. The last part here, producing an end result. So producing an end result means that everybody at the end of the day starts using the new software in the company. That would be an example of how we have a project and the management of it. In doing that, we have to consider the project constraints. Remember just now I mentioned that there is something called constraints. So the constraints, normally we use the term TQC. What does TQC stand for? T is basically time, or also some people call it your schedule. Q is the quality, and C is your cost. Some people call it budget. So now with this TQC, you have to make a balance of it, because the management have to decide, right? How much of quality, how much of time, how much of cost, and how much of quality is important to us. Budget. Almost all project there's a limited budget. Yeah. So now let's come back to the paint work that we're doing for the room. We know very well we have put aside the budget to buy the paint. We may have to put the budget aside to get someone to help us to do the paint work, right, or the cleaning up and all that. And we may also need to put aside some budget for us to do the moving of furniture and all that. Compromising quality for the case there, we will decide, say, oh, we want them to paint 2-3 layers because we've got time. That's the quality. We want it to be so nice as that. So that might be important to us. In the room again, organizing a fair schedule, we say, oh, we got make it so that there's enough time before the next Chinese New Year. 1 month plus. Okay, so now we come back to here, you can see that the combination of this will decide what type of project that we have. For example, okay, if we have time and cost, okay, we have time and cost, then we may need to have low quality. I mean, we have to sacrifice for the quality of it. So that's our constraint. But if on the other hand, if we want something of quality with cost involved, it might take time for us to complete the project. Because we say, oh, we want it to be very nice. Okay. Here cost, but we say, hey, the cost is limited so much. So because we want it to be nice and there's a cost involved, it may take longer time. So those people who are very artistic and all that, it may take a longer time to complete. Okay. So now that's the idea of budget through quality and schedule. Okay, now let's go to the next portion here. when we look at the management portion needs somebody to lead the whole set of activities. That will be done by a person appointed as a project manager. This may be an official appointment or unofficial appointment. However, every project manager throughout time have been proven to require a set of skills. Yeah. So although you are uneducated or highly educated, you will still need to look at this. So a project manager should have strong leadership skills because you are dealing with many people. Right? Remember, we are painting a house, right? We need to deal with the shop where we buy the paint, to be able to explain to him what paint, what color and all that we like. Then we also need to be able to work with the painters, the painter who's coming in to do the painting. We need to work with him to tell him how important is it, what is the things that we want to get done, and when they must have it done. Especially, for example, the paint drips. We don't want them to drip paints everywhere. So we need to be able to explain to them, to tell them the importance of it. Then we also need to have problem-solving skills. Painting is not much problem if you get experienced painters. But if suddenly they come across some problems, how? Yeah, so for example, suddenly while we're doing the painting, monsoon period, rain starts coming in from the ceiling. How do we solve that problem so that we can finish or complete the project? Because those are unexpected, or some people call it natural disasters. Okay. Or suddenly the painter tells us, oh, sorry sir, my staff tested positive COVID, will not be able to come in for the next 5 days. And after that 5 days, are you sure you want him to come to your place to finish up the painting? Right, so from that, those are examples of problem-solving skills. You need to be able to tackle the type of things. What about the case where you do the painting and suddenly somebody tells you, the painter comes and tells you not enough paint? How are you going to solve that? Yeah. Another traditional skill for project manager is organizational skill. So all these project managers are normally very organized in their mind. They have already pictured out the process, what is expected. They already have a schedule or a spreadsheet for the costing, so they can manage all the costing. All the receipts they will keep with them to be able to determine purchase budget, to make sure that everything ends on time. Yeah, so these are characteristics of a project manager. Standard or traditional, no matter what type of project, IT projects, school projects, or painting projects, or delivering a new software project, they will normally have these basic items. Okay, now coming to that, we are going to go into I'm going to give you an opportunity to ask questions, or rather I'm going to put you this quiz Q&As, right? You have your papers there, so just answer the questions on your paper, okay? Or if you want, you can also share your answers here. First part here is this. It's the Q&A portion here. Provide an example of a project that you can think about. What do you think would be a project? Apart from the bank teller example I told you that you want to implement new software, apart from the paint work that you want to do for your room, okay, what other cases of what you think is an example of a project? Now, when you think of a project, write it down. What do you think is a project? Then we will analyze to see whether it is a project or not. Yeah? And why do you say that is a project? Right, so Let's see what's your answer to your questions. To the question 1 example project. What's this? Okay, building a community bridge. Okay, that's good. What's the example? Yours is yeah, that's a good one. Holiday trip. Okay, that's also a project. Okay, holiday trip is also a project. Now, for those projects that you have mentioned, what would be the example of TCQ if you remember? T stands for your time, C stands for your cost, and Q for your quality. Now, what would be example of your time constraint? Example, building a bridge, you will say, okay, we give you 1 year because it's a big project. Example of your holiday trip, it might be shorter, 5 days, right? Or maybe 1 month because you have to plan for the things off. Then your cost involved building the bridge. Building a bridge might be direct cost. You might also have costs where you have to apply to the local councils, the local government, apply for plans, architect work and all that. Holidays, what's the cost involved? You may need a travel agent, you may need to see the flight tickets, right? Passports, you may have to pay for passports, your new clothes and all that. And of course quality. Okay, for bridge, your quality might be just so that people can walk across the bridge, community bridge, and we can walk up and down, right, safely. And you may assume that the bridge can be used for 20 years, 30 years safely. For holiday trip, what type of quality are you looking at? Are you looking at the budget type of trip, right? Or a hotel with all the facilities type trip, so that becomes your quality. And so those are the TCQ. That's where if you draw your TCQ diagram, then you can see where are the importance area. Now, why I mentioned about TCQ is that normally for TCQ, you always have 2 that is important, and you always sacrifice 1. Yeah, in any project, it is very common that we concentrate on 2 and sacrifice 1. So the management have to agree on which one is the one to sacrifice. So that one, once it's agreed during the beginning of the project, everyone agrees on it, then they will just proceed with it. So it's easier. Okay, now last part here, share characteristics of a project. So your project itself, what are the characteristics? Remember the SMART. So what is the S, what's the M, what's the A, what's the R and T of your project that you have talked about? Think about it, write down. I think most of you will be hungry at this time. Okay, we've got another 3 more minutes before we go for our assignment and break. Okay, do you have any other questions? Any questions? No? Okay. No questions, then I will give you your assignment. The assignment is typically based on the project that you have mentioned here. Yeah. List out the T, the CQ of that particular project, and the last part here, of course, list out what are the S, N, A, R, and T of the project. Okay, I'll give you a few minutes to do that, then we will go on for the coffee break. Right, I'll give you a few minutes to complete that. Right, so after you finish this short assignment, then we will go for coffee break. you have any questions, you can ask, or you can even ask during the coffee break. Yeah, no problem. But try your best to see how you can list out those items that we have just gone through. So later when we go for the coffee break, then we will stop the recording, okay? Thank you. I hope you have actually learned a great deal of items here, because this is the area where people need to understand why an set of activity is known as a project, and how we can appreciate what is a project itself.
I have a question.
Yes.
For building a bridge, what is the T relevant for building a bridge? How do you explain that?
So every project you must have a relevance. So in other words, that project, who is it for? Who is going to benefit from it?
Community.
Correct. So your relevance would be for the community. So for example, you may say the Jakun community, right? They need to be able to cross to go to the town. An example is, previously they didn't have any way, they had to travel one whole day to get across, but now with the bridge you may only take 1 hour. So that one is the relevance of it. Okay, the time, of course, the project time. You can determine, say, oh, this one is something which is very difficult, may take resources and all that. You may need to take 1 year to complete it.
Okay. For achievable, with a degree of risk, is it like for example, you're building a bridge, then you need to see the soil condition and all those things like this, achievable?
Correct. Achievable is important because at the end of the day, it will decide whether that project is go ahead or we don't even do it at all. Yeah, so if you know if it's not achievable, for example, some people will say that, oh, it's impossible with the technology that we have, with the budget that we have, there's no way we can wait for the bridge to be completed. Yeah, so that's where it comes in. Now, good, they all can practice that. We will go for a break in a short while. So in conclusion, success of a project depends on managing the constraints by a trained project manager. So we understand the constraints at TCQ. We understand who is a project manager. The only thing now that I've added in is the word trained project manager. Some people, because they're from childhood, they're used to managing projects. Okay, but trained project manager means that we are people who are competent. We know that we can give the person his job. Yeah. So now, as reference for these materials, you can have a look at Fundamentals of Project Management, right, by Joseph Higney. Project Management by Harold Krisner, and there's also a Prince 2, which you can only get it once you have joined the Prince 2 certification program. Yeah, so with this, we will go for a short break, coffee break, and we will be back later on to continue with 1 and 2.